a.m. I'd like to welcome our audience here at the House of Justice, as well as all of our chapters across the nation that are watching live stream. We're so happy that you joined us today. And without further ado, he is one of the most prominent activists leading this country. He is the man who is not afraid to speak up for the voiceless and stand firm on his beliefs. He is the soul reacher, the liberation seeker, and truth teacher. He's back from the historic weekend, having played a major role in the 50th commemoration of Bloody Sunday in Selma, Alabama. He is the president and founder of National Action Network and has devoted his life to helping our people. He is none other than the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton!
No justice!
No peace!
No justice!
No peace!
No justice!
No peace!
No justice!
No peace!
What do we want?
Justice!
What do we want?
Justice!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
When do we want it?
Now!
When do we want it?
Now!
Hug the person next to you, tell them you love them. One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours. It will be ours. Oh, one day, when the glory is won, we will be sure. We will be sure. Now the war is not over. Victory isn't won. But we'll fight on to the finish. When it's all done, we'll cry glory. We'll cry glory. We'll cry glory. Glory. One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours. It will be ours. We'll cry glory. 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 Give a hand, Brevon Neal. Certainly we're happy to be with you another Saturday morning for the Saturday Action Rally, and for you that are here live in the House of Justice at 106 West 145th Street in the Village of Harlem, and for you that are listening live on 1190 WLIB AM in New York, and for you that are watching all over the country on live stream on www.nationalactionnetwork.net. We're happy to be here another Saturday morning where the action is. Give a hand, Sister Yvette. Give her a big hand. Yvette Hilford. And she did a wonderful job hosting us this morning. Attorney Hardy is doing a seminar on C-SPAN on politics, and we are having, I told y'all when we put Stephen Marshall chapter, we're going to start putting different talent, different places. One of the things that I always resented coming up is in the church is they get in these little cliques. And the cliques run everything. Nobody get outside the clique. So I put Stephen up there so we have us a clique buster. So that people that not in the clique get the lead and get to go forward. Because you get a whole lot of stuff in movements if you just let people have room. They ain't got to be your friend. They don't have to be your hangout buddy. They had to be in your clique. We're here to move our people forward. We're not here for you to have your little club and your clique. If you're going to do that in your house, not in the House of Justice. And Yvette is certainly shown that we got multi-talent here in the National Action Network. Give her another hand. And certainly we have special guests. I'm thrilled. I was listening on the radio as the MP Diane Abbott, all the way from London. This is one of the outstanding international leaders in the world today. Give her a big hand. Not only did she host me and our delegation a couple of months ago when I was in London to go speak at Oxford, she brought me up in the House of Commons and had meetings set up. We had a community meeting similar to this on the Saturday I was there. But let me tell you something. Diane Abbott is so regarded, so respected. She did my television show from London that Friday night, that she's being touted as a leading candidate for the mayor of London, England. So not only is she a senior member of parliament, she is, you're looking at who might be the mayor of London. So when she gets ready to run, we all going over there and we will Americanize that song, London Bridges Falling Down. And I want to say this, it was easier for some to host and receive us this trip. But Diane received me many years ago when I wasn't welcome in some circles in London. I first went to London, and you would have thought I came to invade London. There had been a killing there. They called me everything but a child of God. And Diane brought me to the House of Commons then, because she is a freedom fighter and a stand-up person. And when I heard she was in the country, we definitely want her to come by early Saturday morning, share with our radio and television audience. And we are wanting the mayor here to meet with her, because mayors ought to get to know each other. They can talk mayor talk across the Atlantic. Give her another hand, MP Diane Abbott. Also honored to see my little brother trying to hide in the audience, but I'm glad to have the brother of Trayvon Martin is with us this morning. Stand up, Javaris Fulton. For the last 3 years since the Trayvon movement, I and his family have been close. I was in Miami a couple weeks ago, and I went by the foundation, Trayvon Martin Foundation. The family has institutionalized and continue to fight for justice and fight for issues, as well as do training. And I met with Javaris and his mother, Trayvon's mother, and then Javaris had to show me his office. Said, step into my office. He got it like that in Miami. We up here freezing, and Javaris has an office overlooking the fountain in hot Miami. But that's my brother, and we're glad to have him. And also this morning, Gwen Carr, the mother of Eric Garner, and y'all know I get up 5 in the morning, and I got up, I read all the papers, and the Wall Street Journal has a wonderful profile on Gwen Carr this morning, talking about how she has transitioned from a very private person didn't want a whole lot of attention, but because they choked her son to death, and we continue to fight that with New York City police, she has become, as they say, an activist extraordinaire all over the country. And she was in Selma with us last weekend. And the mothers there brought her in and took care of her. And she's inspired people all over the country to show how she's going to stand up for her son, Eric Gardner, and we don't take Gwen Carr for granted here every Saturday. And all of our special guests, I have to always acknowledge the presence of one of my mentors and leaders who continues to pave the way for all of us, Bishop Herbert Daughtry. And I got home from Selma, and I'm going to deal with some of this in a minute, and I was watching the news, and it pop up on the news, Minister Kevin McCall, our Brooklyn chapter. And I feel proud when I look in the news and see Minister McCall out there dealing with violence. And Kirsten Ford, our regional vice president, him, and Dominique out in Hempstead and them. That's what a movement is about, where everybody is on their post. And if, you know, the difference between an entourage and a movement. If everybody traveling with who's in charge or who the president is, you have an entourage, or a posse, as the kids call it. I don't want a posse, I want a movement. I don't need everybody going with me. I need everybody going in their direction. Get your own posse to go do something. And they are standing up leaders in their own right and doing a wonderful job. I remember when I was a youngster just getting going in the movement, there was one of the lieutenants of Dr. King that helped to train us, Reverend James Bevel. And he was the one who laid out the strategy for Birmingham and Selma. And Reverend Bevel, I said to him, Reverend Bevel, you got to teach me. He said, okay. He said, you want to be a leader? I said, yes, sir. He said, you want to be a leader? I said, yes, sir. He said, I'm going to give you the keys to being a leader. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to give you the keys. So I try to do everything right. He comes speak at my youth division operation breadbasket. About 3 weeks out, he called me over to him. He was at Bethany. He says, Al, I told him I'm going to teach you the keys of leadership, right? So I got all excited. Yes, I'm going to get it from Dr. King's strategy. I said, yes, sir. I took out my little pad, go write it down. He said, you want to be a leader? I said, yeah. He said, get up and lead there. I said, huh? He said, get up and lead there. And as I grew older, I understood he's right. The only way you're going to be a leader is you got to lead. A lot of y'all trying to lead without leading anything. In between pontificating and analyzing and orating and running your mouth and writing emails and leading, you got to get up and do something. Don't nobody care about how smart you are if it's not going to lead them somewhere. Brilliant irrelevance is still irrelevant. You go to the bathroom, sit on the commode, be brief. But you ain't being too productive. Yeah, Lord. I know somebody at home said, why Rev had to go there? But I'm trying to keep it real. That is why it is imperative that everybody be part of our national convention this year. I thought about as we were in Selma last week. Here we are 50 years after the Voting Rights Act. 50 years after Bloody Sunday. And yet the Supreme Court in the Shelby County decision has nullified Section 4, which takes pre-clearance out of the Voting Rights Act. I want y'all to get this down in the barber shop, because a lot of folks missed this. In all of this celebration last week, and it was awesome. Got in there Friday, we did our workshops. Saturday, I marched with the president and the original marchers. About 25 of us went over to Edmund Pettus Bridge with him, where and John Lewis, where John Lewis was beaten 50 years. And as we got to the top of the bridge, the president turned and hugged us and got his card, and the first lady and brought his daughters and his mother-in-law. And George Bush was over there. And as everybody got ready to go, and the 15 of us that was left in the delegation, I looked down the road, and I thought about as 50 years ago they got beat at that point in the bridge and never got to the end of the road till Dr. King and others came. And I looked at where does the road lead ahead for us? And what are they going to say 50 years from now about us? What are they going to say at the 100th anniversary? Most of us going to be here. I'm going to do the best I can, but most of us ain't going to be here. And they should not say that 50 years ago the Supreme Court took pre-clearance out of the Voting Rights Act, and that generation celebrated and didn't fight back to make sure they protected the Voting Rights Act. Now, what does that mean, pre-clearance? When a lot of folk don't know what they're talking about. Voting Rights Act was not about giving us the right to vote. We got the right to vote. Voting Rights Act was to protect us against people that got in the way of our right to vote and discriminated. That's why they kept renewing every 5 years saying, well, we don't need it no more, and no one's discriminating or robbing you of your legal right to vote. So people talk about, why do we have to go every 5 years to get a right to vote? It doesn't give you the right to vote. It protects someone from interfering. What do you mean by interference? They would come up with schemes like test how many bubbles are on a bar of soap, how many jelly beans in a jar, who was the first president of Boo 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 College, all kind of stuff. And if you couldn't pass the test, you couldn't vote. The Voting Rights Act eliminated them being able to do any of that. And pre-clearance was that you could not change the voting laws in the districts or states that had a history of discrimination without clearing it first, pre-clearing it with the Justice Department, which means Alabama, Georgia, Florida couldn't change anything without pre-clearing it. That's what voter rights is. It didn't give people the right. You already had the right, but you couldn't change the procedures. Wasn't just the South. 2 counties in New York was in the Voting Rights Act under pre-clearance. Why? Because it had a history of discrimination. What the Supreme Court did last year was take that pre-clearance out. So we're not going to kill the bill. We're going to take pre-clearance out. I went to the hearing. Martin Luther King III and I sat up in the hearing when Justice Scalia looked down at the lawyers and during the oral arguments and said to them, well, this sounds like to me a racial entitlement. I knew then that we were in trouble. Now, by taking pre-clearance out, that meant they could do whatever they wanted to do in terms of procedures that then cuts back on the vote. Didn't take your right to vote, but what did they do? Cut back on early voting days. In Florida, Alabama, they were getting 2 weeks, we cut it down to 4 in Ohio. Voter ID law. All of that came because they no longer have to go to the Justice Department to clear changing the laws. We, in effect, lose then the power to stop them from regressive and repressive voting laws. Many of you know we were in the middle of a voting rights tour dealing with voter ID and these issues last summer leading into the midterm elections. In fact, we were in the middle of a voting tour when Eric Gardner was killed by NYPD. And we came back off the road to help Miss Card now. I went back out there and then Ferguson happened. That's why I tell these folks, people talk about, oh, they run around. We are not looking for issues. You can't help. They keep coming up and they keep becoming things we've got to deal with. So as I looked at this thing last week, the problem we got is that we are driven by emotion rather than our emotions driving us around a plan. Our convention is to develop in each area, from voting to policing to health care to education to culture. What is our plan for the next year? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. We got the top minds. President Obama sent us some of his cabinet members. Some of in culture, some of the hottest artists. Folks from Empire, the cast is coming. Lee Daniels, the creator. Y'all be watching Empire and act like y'all don't watch it. Y'all be watching them Monday night. They'll be there. Dr. Michael Eric Dyson and others on the academic level. And they've announced the name, mayors of 4 or 5 cities. The idea of our convention, last year we had over 6,000 delegates, the largest civil rights convention last year. The president came and spoke. This year we're going to do the same. Every session is free. But the difference is, MP Abbott, we come out of our convention with an action plan saying these are the things we're going to work on these areas. And the next year we end with Measure the Movement. What did we commit to do last year? What did we do? We said we're going to do these 8 things. We didn't do 2 of them. We didn't do 3 of them. We've got to start measuring what we do. And every convention we end with me as the head of NAN, the head of the NAACP who will be there this year, Cornell Brooks, the head of the Urban League, Mark Morial, and on, reporting on what they promised last year at National Action Network Convention, and coming back and committing what they're going to do the year going forward. We cannot keep having conventions which are nothing but parties. Where everybody come together, go to a workshop for half hour, and then party hard. Our convention is agenda, action. At night we have church. First night Hezekiah Walker's preaching and singing. Friday night Marvin Sapp coming. We got the best for you in every area. And you don't have to pay nothing, just get there. But you need to pre-register. Do not come down to Sheridan talking about you a member if you've not pre-registered. Or don't be standing up there. I remember a couple years ago, a couple of y'all go to the desk. No, y'all ain't pre-registered. Y'all can't find my name? No, but you didn't put it in there. I don't know what they did with my name. I'm going to talk to Rev Mal about y'all ain't coming. No, you did not pre-register. We can't find what you ain't gave us. So call right now, 646-4651, 1-877-626-4651, 1-877-626-4651, or go online to www.nationalactionnetwork.net, www.nationalactionnetwork.net, and pre-register now. Now you may not be able to do all 4 days, but you can do 1 day or half a day or 2 days. Register for what you can so we are prepared. Why do we need you to pre-register? Because we don't need to get a room for 300 and 500 is coming to this session. And the only way we know that is going by registration. If we get a room for 300 and 500, show them 200 didn't pre-register, then you be standing out in the hall talking about how come they ain't got a seat. Hello. So I want everybody to pre-register right now. They're at the phone now. I see them phones are ringing, and they're going to pick up the phones and register you as I speak. You ain't going to miss nothing because I ain't going to preach for about 6 minutes. I got more announcements. I want everybody to pre-register. Let me thank those that went to Selma. And I want to say that one of the things I was honored on Sunday to give the sermon for the 50th anniversary there at Brown Chapel, which is the church y'all saw in the Selma movie. That was the church that headquartered the movement then and has been the center of that. And Andrew Young and Reverend Jesse Jackson and all of those from that generation were there. Attorney General Eric Holder and the nominee Loretta Lynch and all were there for the sermon. And one of the things that I was talking about is what I'm saying today is what are we going to do with the road going forward? I'm looking out there at Loretta Lynch, who is nominated to be the successor to Eric Holder. And it has been now about 120 days since the president nominated her. They have never taken that long in American history to confirm an attorney general nominated by a sitting president. Loretta Lynch, none of them have come up with anything, no scandal, no she cheated in school, nothing. So what took them so long? Now John McCain, I want you all to watch this, announced yesterday he's voting against her being confirmed because she will not agree that the president's immigration policy is unconstitutional. That's why I'm telling y'all the struggle continues on many levels. What McCain taking that position, that's going to take some of the other Republicans there, and it will make the vote close. Don't forget now, they gave Eric Holder hell the whole time he was Attorney General for upholding the law. I said Sunday in church with him sitting there. Here you hold him in contempt because you really felt it was contemptible he was the Attorney General in the first place, some of y'all. And he and President Obama, Loretta Lynch, did everything y'all claim y'all want people to do. Went to the best schools, got the top degrees, built a stable family, lived pristine, clean life. And y'all hold him in contempt and ask the president for his birth certificate. I know y'all got a problem with me. I didn't do it none of the ways y'all considered correct. So I know y'all got a problem with me. And it don't bother me because I got a problem with y'all. But what are y'all holding against them other than some of you can't get past your biases to deal with the facts that the world has changed right under your feet? But let me talk to us a minute. Before we could get the mist out of our eyes, I'm sitting up there and honored and happy. I grew up in SCLC. Andy Young was Dr. King's right hand. Rev Jackson, head of his economic. I grew up under them and they there. So it's a big moment for me. I'm chosen to do the sermon. And soon as we get out of church, headed back to New York, right away, police killing, unarmed man, Madison, Wisconsin. Before you can get the details on that, fraternity in Oklahoma, riding on the bus, video, talking about the N-word and what they're not going to do. I'm talking about within 48 hours of Selma is letting you know with all the progress made, we have a long way to go. It is not over. And many of us that are trying to act like it's over should understand that the struggle is a continual, and rather than get tired, a lot of people, well, it's always a problem, I'm just tired. First of all, most of y'all ain't been involved enough to get tired of. I mean, folk all the time, I'm tired of marching. What's the last march you've been on? You can't get tired of things that you have not engaged in. And when you look at the challenges of today, we have no excuse but to fight them. Because 50 years ago, they didn't have none of the resources we have, none of the ability, and had more blatant fights, and they fought. So what's your excuse? I am challenging us that we have got to continue to fight the opposition to voting rights and civil rights and human rights. They can't stop the struggle. The ones that can stop the struggle is the ones that will not engage in the struggle on our side. You are in the way. They ain't in our way. They where they always been. You in the way sitting up there doing nothing but complaining and running your mouth and not getting up doing what needs to be done.
My man.
You got 47 senators gonna write a letter to Iran, who are supposed to be the enemies of the country, and in effect tell them, don't listen to the President of the United States. 47 senators. I ain't talking about 47 columnists, 47 pundits on TV. Senators undermining the foreign policy of the President of the United States. They are doing what they always did. The issue is, where are we that are supposed to be fighting? I see the children of the backlash crowd. Where are the children of the freedom fighters? Don't get mad at folk upholding their tradition because you too cowardly or distracted to uphold yours. Oklahoma, Madison, Wisconsin. Naked man killed unarmed in Atlanta by police. Couldn't have thought he had a gun, he didn't have no clothes on. Where are we? And then when those of us that stand up go and respond, you complain, oh, here comes Sharpton again. They just want some cameras. If we do it, we criticize. If we don't go, we criticize. Which is why I just do what I feel needs to be done. Because you're going to criticize anyhow. I stopped this week and thought about Rev Sharpton, who died this week, co-founder of Operation Breadbasket and Operation Push, known her since I was 12 years old. Never stopped fighting. 90 years old. We're going to funeralize her Thursday in Chicago. You talking about freedom, let me tell you something. Brother Daughtry, we just celebrated his 83rd birthday, 84th birthday. Freedom fighters don't retire. There ain't no retirement plan for freedom fighters. When you, let me give y'all this clue. When you hear so-called young activists talk about, well, they're getting older and need to retire, it shows how they are in a corporate mentality, not a movement mentality. That's corporate world. There ain't no retirement plan for freedom fighters. You got that from your boss at the job. Show you don't know nothing about no activism. Ain't no pension plan for activists. So you showing me how non-movement you are. How old was A. Philip Randolph? How old was Fannie Lou Hamer? All this ridiculous talk. Well, no, they got to make room on the stage for younger folk. Absolutely. But ain't nobody got to get off stage for you. Get on the stage with whoever's on there, and your gifts will make way for you. If everybody got to shut up for you to speak, that means you can't speak. If everybody else got to get laryngitis for you to sing, that means you really can't sing. It's just that everybody else can't speak. We fight till we win. This week showed you. Then we get 2 cops shot in Ferguson. Right away they're gonna say protesters. Some Eric Gardner, y'all's all kind of speculation. First of all, if they've not found the shooter, don't let them run no conclusion till they find out what's going on. What we do know is the Department of Justice found the city of Ferguson to have been guilty of racial profiling and racial bias. What we do know is that the police chief had to resign and 2 other top officials. And if people like National Action Network and others had not gone into Ferguson, and if the young activists had not kept the protest going, the Justice Department would not have come in there. That is why there is a change going on in Ferguson now, because some of us showed up and the young folk there held it down. Give credit, that's what movements do. And that's why we said on this Garner case, that's why we've opened up the Staten Island office. Because we don't get in fights that we are not going to stay in. But let me tell you this as well. At the same time, we've got to, from our, people listening to me at home, we've got to start from inside our small circles, our families, to the outside. Yeah, I was outraged at the shooting in Madison. And we talking to them in that movement. Yes, we've been talking to students. Y'all seen on my TV show, 3 nights this week I had the students on from the university in Oklahoma. But what broke my heart is to pick up the paper and see 5 of our young sisters beating another sister in Brooklyn. And nobody in the McDonald's steps in and chastises and denounces what they're doing. And to read a 16-year-old girl been arrested 6 times in the last year. We've got to take charge again in our own community. Scared to raise your children. You can't say nothing to them. Yes, you can. Try it. We cannot duck from the responsibilities of raising our children. And this thug culture cannot be misdefined as black culture. The X generation had Malcolm and others on their hats and their t-shirts. They replaced it with Scarface. They got these young kids growing up thinking the black way is the hoodlum way. Our culture is not a culture of hoodlums and beat down. Our culture is a culture of lift up and stand up and be up. Well, Rev Al, don't talk down to black folk. No, I'm talking up to them. Because anytime you don't address depraved behavior, then you are acting like we are less than what we are. One of the reasons I got my broken home, my dad left when I was 9. Y'all know the story. We went from being middle class to growing up on welfare. But the reason that I was able to excel is that those that my mother put me under never talked down to me. They talked up to me, telling me there was no excuse for me to be down. Reverend Jones, Bishop Washington, Reverend Jackson, those that meant to me, never let me make an excuse. Ain't fair, I'm on welfare. Ain't fair, my daddy left. Ain't fair, broken home. They told me we expect you to do more than us. To stand in the McDonald's and watch girls beat down another girl and you say nothing is to act like that's normal behavior. That is not normal behavior. And it should not be tolerated. And none of the adults or youth ought to tolerate it. I tell some young folk the other day, I was walking to the office downtown. Red man, want to ask you a question. Okay. What about the effort I hold it? I want to be your dad. Don't be cussing to me. I know how to cuss. But we're going to have a respectful conversation. And the guy with me, man, I was surprised you said that. Because we got to set up order and respect in our community. When you lose that, you can't win no fights because you broke down the character of the folk that ought to be doing the fight. We ain't never been so poor that we didn't have order in our community. You ain't broke enough to disrespect your elders. That ain't got nothing to do with the economy. That's got something to do with your character. And something to do with your home bringing. Some things I knew not to do because I couldn't bring it home. But if you have no standards in your house, that's why you in your house scared of your own children. Some stuff we snuck out the house because we knew we couldn't do it in the house. So I'm glad that our National Action Network huddle, along with Minister Kevin McCall, along with Ashley and Emerald Stipes, Eric Gardner's daughter, they're going out there Monday to deal with this. Because, and this on their own, they told me, Rev Al, we want to go deal with this as young people to young people and make a statement about this because we got to step up. That's how you here in Huddle and National Action Network. Last thing I'm on end on this one. It came out yesterday that Wikipedia has been, that's where they create the archives that's supposed to be history. When I go speak places, people go there to get the bio on me, history. Well, they found out people can go on it and edit and change things if they use sources. And they found out that on Wikipedia, that the story of Eric Garner had been changed and edited. Story of what happened to Sean Bell and Amadou Diallo had been changed and edited, and they tracked it back to the computers at one police plaza. I want y'all to get this now, it's beautiful. Somebody sitting up at police headquarters, sanitizing and distorting police cases. Now, my daughter Ashley, who's the social media person in the family, they tell me how they distort stuff on me. She be on computers all day fighting with folks. And let me tell you something, be careful where you get your information from. Because you get the wrong information and become an expert on flawed information. Folk will rewrite lies and you quote it as truth. Your brain, many of y'all know that a couple of years ago I went on a strict diet, lost all this weight. How do you lose weight? You watch what you put in your body. You watch your intake. Well, you better watch what you put in your brain. Because what you think, what you bring in your brain, what you digest mentally, is going to reflect in your activity. That's why you ought to know what you study. Know who you study. Because you may be on the wrong information. This Wikipedia thing is instructive. Bad information. They tell our kids, well, you can't talk to the law, don't be a snitch. That ain't a snitch. If somebody victimizes you and you tell about the victimization, that ain't snitching. Snitching is in me and you gonna do a crime. You get caught, I was in the crime, and you tell on me when you were my co-conspirator. But if we want to do a crime on you, I'm gonna break in your house and then tell you don't snitch when I'm in there doing something to you. You got to be stupid. I was fighting the record industry. Mom threatened to hurt me. I tell the FBI, they said Sharpton was snitching. I'll tell it again. In fact, I'm snitching on Eric Garner's cop right now. If that's how you define that, talk to me like you got good sense. But you allowed them put things in your mind. Be protective of what you allow yourself to think. That's my message this week. Protect your brain from bad information. People call me, you read so-and-so? No. Why? Because I don't even want it in my psyche. I read so-and-so said so-and-so about you. I didn't read it. Because I didn't want to think about it. So if folks were sitting around talking about me, think they hurt my feelings, didn't hurt my feelings because I don't know nothing about it. I don't want to hear it. Because I got too many things on my mind to do than to worry about your foolishness. Rev Al, you see me on Facebook. No, I don't read Facebook. I write on my Facebook what I want and I'm gone. I ain't read your comment. I was writing my comment. I wouldn't need your comment. I know what I got to say. Ladies, I'm in the airport. I write you all the time on Facebook. You don't answer me. I don't read. So if y'all staying up all night thinking y'all cussing me out, y'all about to go to bed. I ain't read none of it. And don't intend to. Because I protect my brain just like I protect my body. Just like I gave up fried chicken and sent it all over to Phoenix, I sent all bad information somewhere else. Because somewhere I read as a man thinking. You can never elevate a people till you change their mind. And the only way to change their minds is to watch what they put in their minds. Slave masters never change their mind. The only way you can end slavery is when the slaves change their mind. Slave masters ain't gonna retire. But when slaves say, I had enough, that's when slavery stops. You got to change your mind. And the first thing you got to do is go on a mind diet. Give up bad stuff in your mind. I listened to James Gray this morning talking about Rosa Parks. What Rosa Parks did was change her mind by saying, I'm not going to the back of the bus because I have the right to sit anywhere anybody else paid. The reason every other black was going to the back is because they had convinced them that was where they were supposed to be. They had accepted that was their place. When you change your mind, I don't know why Obama got health care. When you change the mind, America said we deserve health care for everybody, not just rich folk. You change their mind. That's why they don't like Obama. He changed the mentality of people to understand that what they call as a handout is not a handout. Diane Abbott in the United Kingdom, where they have people of color as minorities and no power, she changed her mind and said, we're not looking for somebody to be kind to us. We can speak for ourselves. Y'all run around here looking for a liberal when you should be looking for a liberator. Jesus. What did he challenge his disciples? Who do people say I am? Because you will not get your head on right till you change how they think. Well, how should they think, Jesus? Let the weak say I'm strong. The only reason you can't get where you can get, you can't fulfill your potential, is you don't think you can get there. Disciples was on a boat one night, Rev Sharpton, got in a storm. And as they panicked in the storm, they looked out and saw Jesus walking on the water, walking toward the boat. Peter said, Lord, save us. Jesus said, come on, walk on the water over here to me. Peter got up and walked on the water. But when he thought about he shouldn't be able to walk on the water, that's when he started drowning. What drowned him was his thoughts. God can't use you till you get rid of your limiting thoughts. But when you go in the mentality of the divine and break down the boundaries of what people have given you, you can walk on water. You can hold the sun still. You can make waves out of no waves, because I changed my mind. Rev, you can't build an organization from nothing. Well, I did. Rev, you can't talk on the radio every day across the country. Well, we did that too. Rev Al, you can't be on TV every night and do an organization and radio. No, you can't. I do it every day. I change my mind. Don't live my life by your limited mentality. Just because you don't think you can do something, don't act like I can't do it. Oh, Rev Al, you must have got to deal with somebody. Because in your mind, somebody got to be in charge of us because we ain't smart enough to do it. I'm as smart as anybody downtown and uptown. I go from the suite to the street. I don't need no boss to tell me nothing. Who did you cut a deal with? Get on TV and radio. I cut a deal with somebody. I was 4 years old. My mama brought me down the aisle in Washington Temple. And I met a man that broke the grips of death, got up from a grave in 3 days, and I made a deal with him, and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he makes my enemies leave me alone. I got a boss that frees my mind. And that's why I can do what I do. And then he gave me surgery. He reached in and took fear out and put hope where there was fear. That's why I don't bow to you. That's why I don't buckle to you. I have no fear because the God I serve said I will make a way out of nowhere. The God I serve said you put your faith in me, I'll make your enemies your footstool. The God I serve said that be not weary in well-doing. We will prevail if we faint not. As long as we don't faint, as long as we hold on, as long as we clear our mind, we will prevail. We will prevail. We will prevail. Everybody sing.